Hello to one and all present here. My name is Srijani Bhaduri, and today we have with us a very special guest. Please welcome Mr. Krishnendu Majumdar, who is a distinguished professional with extensive experience in product management and technology-driven solutions. He has held significant roles in various leading companies, including Flipkart and CredAvenue, including Yubi as well. He continues to apply his extensive knowledge and experience to drive innovation and growth, focusing on creating cutting-edge products and technologies that meet the evolving needs of the market. It's a pleasure to have you with us today, sir.
Well, thank you so much for such a warm welcome. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much. So my first question for today would be, can you please describe your journey and key experiences that led you to your roles at InMobi, Flipkart, and now at Yubi?
So I had started out in technology. I played different roles in technology. I started out as a developer, then went on to manage teams and as well as both product and technology teams. I spent the first few years of my life in banking industry. Then I moved on to spend close to 8 years in supply chain solutions, then 10 years in advertising, and now I am in fintech. So got the privilege of going through multiple different domains during my career.
Wow, that was actually very dynamic, and that's totally something which many people aspire to be. So my next question would be, what exactly is the importance of product strategy in driving business growth, and how do you approach it at Yubi?
See, on product strategy actually starts much before in that what problem you're trying to solve and for whom, right? And that is the identification, and product is a means of solving that problem, right? So whenever any of you are trying to get into product management, first you identify that, okay, what is the domain I'm getting into? Whose problem I'm solving? And is that a problem worth solving for, right? So if you take what I'm doing at Yubi, is that, first of all, as Yubi, we sort of make it our mission that how we can allow a lot more people in India to have access to credit. Today, less than 9% of our entire population has access to credit, which means, imagine that people in different tier 2, tier 3 cities, and even in tier 1 cities, when they need, because in any country, any society, credit plays a tremendous role for growth, whether it is for education, whether it is for building roads, building, what I should say, industry, or, for example, even for day-to-day needs of medical, meeting your commitments with respect to the health and prosperity of your family. And then in India, it is almost like not there. That option is not there for most of the people. And there was another study which said that, okay, what a lot of households in India are one disease away from falling under poverty. Like if anybody in the family gets sick, and then that family gets into poverty for the next 10, 20 years, right? So we put it our mission that how do we sort of solve the problem of this credit flowing to a lot more people in India. And that will help grow our economy, grow the general well-being of people, right? Create a lot more jobs and all that. So that is a problem big enough to solve. And once you identify that what is the problem big enough to solve, then you get into how do we solve it? Because a solve can be a very superficial solve. Or, for example, your solution can have a very, very large impact, right? So you have to always make sure that how do I, if I'm getting into a domain, how do I create a real impact with respect to how many people's life I can change, how it can become self-sustainable, right? And how it can keep growing year over year. So these are the things that you do. And then you start thinking of the products which will act as vehicles of solving this, right? So first is the identification of problem. Is it a big enough problem? Is it worth solving for? Whom am I solving for? And then you get into the solutioning that what type of products are needed to solve that problem. I hope I have answered your question.
Yeah, that completely answered my question and many more questions that were in my brain. So that was actually very informative and very analytical as well. So my second question would be that AI and machine learning has come into pretty much every field imaginable. So how do you see the role of AI and machine learning evolving in different industries like e-commerce, fintech, and advertising over the next few years?
So that's a very good question. See, it's already happening. Okay. And I think like the general media narrative is that, oh, AI ML will come and replace jobs and jobs will not be there. But actually it is very far from there because AI ML is also evolving, right? The first thing that you are going to see is that this AI ML will sort of emerge as a co-pilot solution for anybody. Whether it is a radiologist who is able to sort of handle maybe 100, 200 cases in a day, with the AI ML auto co-pilot, they will be able to handle thousands of cases a day, right? Whether it is about the AI ML being used at analysis of data, what a data analyst can do now, maybe they will become 1000x more productive with AI ML. So in my view, look at it this way, right? Like when cars were invented, did people say that people will forget walking? It is not. It is just that a lot more people will be able to travel a lot more faster to many different destinations. It is not about that cars have been invented and so people will forget how to walk, right? So, and any technology which comes along like that, if you see, that is what increases the human productivity, right? When we say that, imagine I want to say that education should be able to reach, the good quality education should reach everyone. Now, there is a infrastructure versus there is a, how do I use AI/ML in proper assessment of students? How do I use AI/ML to sort of create a very cognitive journey for the students, right? In fact, like here in Yubi and Flipkart and in wherever I have worked, we have used AI/ML in many different places. Like in Flipkart, we sort of used AI/ML to sort of say that sellers are uploading their products, but they have to be quality checked and they have to be properly cataloged. And everything was being done manually. And then we used AI/ML. So earlier, a seller used to, once they uploaded the product, they were able to sell only after 7 days or 10 days. That is the amount of time it took for those products to be quality checked and properly cataloged. And once we put down our solution, we were able to sell pretty much within minutes of uploading the product. Because whatever we took 7 to 10 days, that with AI/ML's help, we were able to do it within sort of a few minutes. Similarly, in UV, what we do is we use AI/ML for many different aspects, right? Like, for example, a major part of extending credit is like called credit underwriting, right? Where essentially somebody assesses every paper, every data about whether this person is credit worthy, and if it's credit worthy, at what percentage they should be getting the credit. We are using AI to automate a lot of those, what I should say, processes, so that many different departments in banks, they are becoming 1000x more productive, right? Because if you have to create larger and larger benefit for a very large number of people, that's where AI/ML is going to come and help. So finding the right application of that, and which sort of takes a solution from being very niche to very mass scale, that ML is going to do. So that's what we will see. So it is not still in the autonomous domain. It is more in automation and helping people learn and understand. For example, even if you see, like, there is a real problem. Like, India is a country where so many different languages are spoken, right? Now, it still is that people worry about that I'm not able to understand this language, what somebody else is saying. And AI/ML can play a role where essentially from any language X to any language Y, it can now do the translation almost in real time, right? Speech to text. So imagine you could communicate maybe with a certain number of people in your community, but now you are enabled. You can talk to anyone because it is doing the two-way translation. So that is the enablement that it is going to bring.
That was actually a very, very optimistic outlook at what AI/ML can do in the future, and that it's actually an enabler. So now when we are talking of innovation, so my next question would be, how does one balance the need for innovation with the more practical aspects of product management and execution?
See, you have to define innovation first, right? Like sort of, I think innovation happens every day, right? Because if somebody was doing in, say, 10 steps, and somebody finds a better way of doing that same thing, that is innovation. It doesn't necessarily have to be something brand new, and that's where people go wrong, right? It doesn't have to be something that which is way outward, something of innovation. And if you look at some of this innovation, it is not that suddenly out of the blue it appeared. Even if you take cell phones, right? We talk about that innovation. It took 10, 15, 20 years to evolve from what it originally began to where it is today, right? Each incremental step took it way further, and everybody who came built on top of the efforts of the others. So in my mind, like oftentimes people say that innovation has to be like almost like a sudden non-linear thing. But I have seen, at least in this thing, that if you make innovation as a really daily activity about thinking that how can I do this better? How can I do this differently? That compounds a lot over a period of time. And suddenly when you are following such a thing, within a year or two, you will see that, oh, wow, look at this. 2 years ago, we used to solve it like this. Now it has completely changed. Maybe it did not change overnight, but it changed part by part by part. Because once you innovate one part of it, then your mind starts ticking that about how do I do it the next level, the next level, the next level. Maybe you could not have imagined the 7th level sitting at level 1, right? So I think like to really inculcate innovation in your everyday problem solving, that is the attitude we should take, right? And then it is not different that there is a product management for daily use and then there is some innovation sitting outside. It has to be almost like embedded and very well neat into your day-to-day activities.
That was a very new definition of innovation that completely changed my perspective on innovation. So now I have to draw this interview to a close with the last question, even though I don't want to. But my last question for today would be, what advice would you give to aspiring product managers who are looking to make a mark in the tech industry?
See, I can only give the advice which has worked for me, right? I don't know what other advices. What has worked for me is that as a product manager, you understand that you have to learn every day. You have to be extremely curious. You have to be curious about everything, right? Not necessarily about what you do. You have to be curious about what is happening around you, what things are changing in different areas. You have to constantly keep learning about newer things because you will never know how the dots connect. And you as a product manager, if you have a very wide interest in learning different things, you will be able to connect certain dots, which will truly create something meaningful and useful for a lot of people, right? So one of the aspects is that you have to keep learning, right, all the time. And the second is that be the biggest critic of your solution. I have often seen product managers get too emotionally attached to what they have built. But the best product managers are who are constantly scrutinizing and the biggest critic of what they have done. And they Keep building, dismantling, building, dismantling, building, dismantling, and get better and better and better. So internalize the problem, not just the solution that you thought at one time, right? Your association with should be with the problem, and how do I solve the problem better? Not that when I created a solution and that is my solution, nobody can criticize it or that, because every solution has a time and space within which it will be relevant. After that, it will not be. So you, as a product manager, if you continuously put that scrutiny on what you have built, you will build better and better products. And what will allow you to do that is that if you keep learning and keep your horizons and keep it wide about what you are curious about, not just about what you are doing today. Right? So that will be my advice to them.
Thank you so much, sir. This entire interview was extremely informative and it actually really broadened my horizons. So yeah, I definitely learned something new today from you, sir, and I bet definitely most of my peers have also. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, and thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.